Hello, my name is Chris Parham. I'm a graphic designer, and this is my website for over50designers.com, which is a temp agency for older designers. And I have two scenarios. Scenario one involves my primary persona, David Marshall. He's a black graphic designer in Boston, mid 50s, just got laid off from his job due to COVID-19 and needs to find something as soon as possible, specifically a remote job. My secondary persona is for Carmen Rodriguez, who is in her early 30s and she's the lead recruiter at an agency. And she is trying to get this big contract for a job that stresses that they want both graphic designers, older graphic designers, and younger graphic designers. And it's a really big job and it would be a big boost for her company. So she's competing with Creative Circle over here to your right, as you can see. And they, for instance, have the same job in two different cities, 17 remote jobs in New York compared to one in Boston. And she really wants to change that because her client, David, is in Boston and he doesn't want to, he can't leave. And also, too, as you can see to your left, these are the words that they use in terms of 1 to 2 years experience, really trying to get in the young people involved in more than older people. For instance, recent college graduate, ready and able to relocate if necessary, language that they know will discourage older workers. So she really wants to change that. And what we have is she's decided to start doing some mind mapping for wireframes. So in the middle, you can see the questions and issues by user testers for CreativeCircle.com. And Sam Wright, who's 58 years old, he's a freelance engineer and designer, was asked, with this site, do you feel that it encourages you to spend time because of the vast number or lack thereof of remote jobs? And he says, spend more time depending on if I can find a remote job, because that's all I'm looking for. And Jennifer Deese, early 20s freelance graphic designer, was asked, would you spend more time, more or less time, looking at this site, looking for remote jobs, depending on the availability and work? And she says, I would probably end up going to Indeed or Monster because this site is not really hands-on to me and makes the job search much harder. And as you can see to your right, you can see remote listings, filters, age discrimination issues. Those are basically categories with subcategories directly underneath, and that's how the mind mapping was done for these particular wireframes. So the wireframes to your left are the beginning of what they're trying to do. And again, don't forget this is also an experimental part of the company. So they're just beginning this stuff. So the primary focus is to find work. So the wireframes to your left for both Carmen and for David, they're basically kind of the same, boring, they have the wrong social media signs at the bottom. There's no thing in there for the navigation in terms of images to see about us, so on and so forth, compared to the newer wireframes, which have a remote only button, a share button. She's able to get to her clients right away, just like he's able to get to a job right away. And as you can see at the bottom, he's clicking on the job, uploading his resume, getting a prompt of the received resume from Carmen's office, and then he goes directly back to the job search. So he's basically signing up for that job that she's trying to get clients for, trying to get designers for. And he would be one of the first ones in there. And Amira Karam is doing user testing for the over50designers.com wireframes. And as you can see to the right, she has a lot to say in terms of what really doesn't work for her. And specifically on the right, she says, how come it doesn't say what kind of job it is, where the job's going to be located at, what's the pay scale? And also there needs to be a share button in there as well. And at the top, as you can see, there's a remote button. Jobs are filtered by city, state, and zip code. The pay scale is in there. Fully remote is in there. The requirements for the job are directly underneath for instance, the description. So the jobs are being able to get filtered and so on. So it makes it so much easier for Amira because she's confused about where exactly am I signing up for? How do I know that you got my application? How do I know that you're going to call me back? So on and so forth. So those are some of her concerns as far as being a user. And these are the results of the wireframe testing. And for an example, just a couple of them I'm going to read off real quick. For David, jobs need to be filtered by city, state to know which ones are remote and not to add info without knowing about the job, the pay, the remote status, etc. And also for David, he needs to have applicants, he needs to be the applicant to click on a job. It pops up at the bottom of the device and gives a description of the job, the pay, full-time, part-time, remote, etc. And for Carmen, she needs a one-click button to be able to bring up an applicant's resume, and a share button is needed for both Carmen and David's devices. So these are the basic results of the wireframe testing for both her tablet and her iPhone, and the same thing with him as well. And like I said, they both needed kind of like the same things basically, but it worked out pretty well. And in conclusion, as you can see, Carmen got the postings that she wanted correctly in terms of 5 years of experience compared to 1 to 2. And that's how she's going to be doing all her writing for all of her jobs from now on. And in the middle, the issues and questions for the first set of wireframes. Herma Parham was asked anything on the wireframes that is confusing in terms of the job search. She says, no, it looks okay, and it works somewhat. And by the way, David got the job, and Carmen got the contract as well. Thank you very much for your help. I really appreciate that. Thank you.